Hello, welcome back to more content. Okay, guys. All right. Fuck off ads. All right. This is going to be a brief update on my channel, what I'm going to be doing for the next month, what to expect, as well as some comments on last night's Texas primary race. Holy shit. First of all, updates. Okay. So I've been multi-streaming on Twitch and YouTube for a while now, most of the week. I've been live streaming games, playthroughs, challenge runs. That's gonna slow down a bit because I know I mentioned last stream that I was gonna make more room for some other content I was doing, in terms of deep diving into these legislation bills, and I really do want to do that. So I'm gonna try to balance that a little bit and see how this works. So I'm still gonna be live streaming on Twitch and YouTube, multi-streaming. We're going to finish the Claire Obscure game. I have a special run I want to do soon. A special randomizer run before we get to the first playthrough of RE9. That's what to expect right off the bat from my channel in terms of games. And obviously I'm going to finish uploading the run-throughs I was moving from Twitch to YouTube before I started multi-streaming again. Right now I'm currently on the Dark Souls Remastered Use What You Get challenge run. And I'm almost done uploading that. What to expect outside of that? Okay, so what else to expect in the next month, right? Aside from the gaming portion, I will still be doing Substack. I'm going to be deep diving into more of the legislative bills, like I mentioned. And right now I'm working on the Housing of the 21st Century bill, which is very hefty and will be multiple parts. There are still a lot of kinks things I want to work on in how I do these videos. But I think the biggest one that you guys can help out with, if you I'm trying to say, welcome these kind of comments, especially if they're too long, because I'm cutting them to no more than an hour, a little over an hour, but that's why this one's going to be multiple videos because it is that big. But here's the thing. If that's still too long for you guys, I can break it up even more. That is completely fine with me. Just let me know, because I want the point of these videos is to kind of deep dive you guys to learn, be more informed, deep dive along with me and ask questions, right? And at the best case scenario, you're learning enough to you feel like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to call, I'm going to email, I'm going to tag my senator or my house rep in social media, and I'm going to tell them how I feel about this bill. That's best case scenario. Okay. Oh, and another side of that is that you're learning, right? You're learning things you didn't know before, because this stuff is not easy to get through. This stuff is very dense. I love this kind of content. I love legal documents. I love this kind of this kind of writing, this kind of reading. But even with that being said, even with it being a passion of mine, it is still not easy. So I really encourage you guys to not go in it with the frame of mind or the perspective that you have to memorize or remember every single thing I talk about in those videos or every single thing out of those bills. That is not the purpose. That is not the point. That actually is counterproductive. Find things that really resonate with you and that you can remember and that you can apply to your real life and you can apply to your knowledge. That's how you do it. Okay. So keep that in mind when you're listening to me talk or you're watching along with these videos, etc. Right. But if you need them in smaller bits, do let me know, because I want them to be digestible. So I can do 15, 30-minute videos, etc. Right. Keep in mind though, if I do smaller videos, it's going to be more parts, right? Because no matter how you cut it, these bills are massive. So expect that content, and the puzzle stuff I still want to get to, and those are going to be short, fun videos. I'm actually thinking of maybe putting those videos in a Patreon kind of environment. That might actually be better, but I don't know. I'm still playing around with a lot of things. I did recently add buy me a coffee account, because I do all this stuff in my free time, right? So any help to support that would be incredibly generous of you guys. But with that being said, those are updates on what to expect over the next month or so, and then I'll update you guys as we go along, right? With that being said, the Texas primary. Okay, Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so where do I even start? Because this was so crazy what I was hearing, okay? Before we get to the results, what was happening in Texas was actually fucked up, okay? So there were reports, and I haven't deep dove into researching how many or to the extent people were talking about this. But I was seeing some stuff that really stood out to me. So I do encourage you guys, if you want to know more, to go out there and research and look into it and all of that. But, oh my God. Okay. So reports were that polling areas were closing early. Then a judge ordered that polling places stay open a couple of hours because no way, shape, or form should polling places be closing early like that. And Ken Paxton actually went and got a stay on that judge's order to prevent that from happening. So that was going on, and all of this is under voter suppression, guys. That's what they're doing. Someone said that when they were waiting in line at the polling place, and they were a registered Democrat, that the polling people, streamlining the polling areas, came in and said, "Hey, all the Republicans, go ahead and come up," and they had them go in first. Yeah. And then there's another report. There were instances of where the number of polling machines were very uneven in terms of like a 1 to 3. So there was like one polling machine available for Democratic voters and then 3 voting machines available for Republican voters. Texas was really, and this is not Texas as in Texas citizens. This is the the very, very Republican leaders of Texas right now. Okay. This is why I highlight the importance of, when you think about Texas being red, it's not red because the majority of the people right now, because the people actually are suffering. It is because of the fucking leaders that have managed to get into power and stay in power. Those are all different ways that they were trying to suppress voters, okay? In terms of Republican versus Democrat, or Republican versus progressive, or anything outside of Republican voters, okay? Okay. Now we get to the results. And here's one thing that brings up questions for me. All right. First of all, the Texas Senate primary, the Republican. It was close. It was so close. You had Ken Paxton versus John Cornyn, but I want to highlight neither one got 50%, and they need 50% in order to win the primary. So Cornyn and Paxton will advance to a runoff in May. Honestly, I don't know. To me, they can go both fuck themselves. But hey, we all have our opinions. The Democratic primary. Okay. So we got Jasmine Crockett versus James Tellerico. All right. And this is the Texas Senate primary. This is the part that brings up questions for me, because the voter suppression that was going on here, I don't understand the intent in terms of the Texas primary, in terms of hitting areas that would vote for Jasmine Crockett, because as we saw, James Tellerico had been a very big threat, right, to the Republican Party. So far that they took his interview with Stephen Colbert off the air before it aired. Like, they didn't air it, they pulled it, but Stephen Colbert went on his YouTube channel and aired it anyways. They were trying to silence him. So with that being the case, I find it harder to believe that they wouldn't try and sabotage James more than they would Jasmine. But because of everything I heard going on, it does seem like they tried to suppress they try to keep Jasmine from winning more so than James Tellerico. So that's what I think about when I think about this. I'm like, what was their intention in terms of what did they want to happen for the Democratic primary in the Senate? Because Jasmine didn't win, but I also feel like James was a bigger threat to them. There are a lot of people upset about Jasmine, which on one hand I get, but I will say this. If I were still living in Texas, which I had planned to, so I had planned to vote in this election, I would have voted for James, because Jasmine hits one of my non-negotiables in terms of Israel and AIPAC. At this point, that is a non-negotiable. If you cannot be a Democratic runner and you cannot denounce AIPAC and you cannot vote against sending arms to Israel, I don't care what kind of sass you're going to give me whenever you're asked about it. The fact that you did it is a non-negotiable for me. With that being said, do I want a person of color, a woman, to be able to run in this kind of race and win? Fuck yes. I would have voted for her had it not been for that. I would have voted for Harris had it not been for that. These Democrats really want to hold on to this, to these AIPAC donors, to funding Israel. And it doesn't matter how you spin it. Israel committed a genocide. That's it. That's it. They did. We are helping them by voting yes on these, by our reps voting yes on these pieces of legislation, and by whatever's going on with Trump and his admin in terms of blackmail and the current Iranian war. Okay. But the point is, they just can't let it go. And that is working against them. Because I'm telling you, I want a woman in these seats. I want a person of color, woman, a female in these seats, because I think they could do incredible work if they actually stop and cut ties with these conservative ideals. Okay. But with that being said, James Tallarico won. I'm glad, I'm happy about this. But the way the Republicans were trying to mess with this, I don't understand how this was going to benefit them, how this part of the race was going to benefit them, no matter what. And I just, to see them seemingly do more harm to Crockett than James, I wonder if it was because James is white and Jasmine's a person of color. I wonder if that was the difference, if that was the only difference. Because, again, a reminder, these groups, these Christian nationalist groups, are incredibly fucking racist. Okay? So, I don't know. That could have been it. So we still have to see who's going to win the Republican primary, but we know who won the Democratic primary come November, if we make it that far. So you got what? Also 897, 281, Ken Paxton, 871, 77, and then these hit over 1 million votes. Yeah. More so on the blue end. Damn. That's actually amazing to see, just to see reflected in these numbers. But that's what you got for the Senate, okay? Texas governor. Gina won by a freaking landslide. Holy hell. So I've heard a lot of good things about Gina. I haven't looked into her enough, honestly, to really feel like I can go into her her policies yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to do a separate video on that just because I am curious to what she's doing. Abbott, though, okay, you got 1,007,041. Abbott still takes most of the votes. He's still, crazy enough, the strongest advocate in the governor race for Texas. Not to mention, or nominee, not to mention, they put a lot of funds. They put a lot of effort, the GOP, into making sure Abbott stayed in power. So this is going to be interesting to see who wins this. I mean, so you got 1,283,843, and then you got 1,007,000. Okay, but you also take into account these people. I don't know. Ooh, no. Oh, shit. Wait a minute. Okay. Just a little math here. You got over 1 million votes for her in the primary. And then the other nominees had 100,000 votes each. You got 7. Oh, okay. That's a lot. That's over 1.5 million. And then you have, that's 1.7 million, specifically. And then you have P. Chambers had a couple 100,000. And then the rest had under 50,000 each. And then you even had one had 15,000. Okay. So, I don't know. It's going to be close. Because, I mean, you have a lot of blue when people want to change. But fucking Abbott, man. I'm looking forward to him being beat, though. But it's going to be nasty because they're not going to want this. Texas is very important that the GOP keeps Texas red, as they're losing so many other states and districts. So, I know this is going to be a big one to watch. But yeah, so we have Abbott and Gina Hinojosa running in November. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. And it's very important we all pay attention because this is going to be a race. Even if you're not living in Texas, it's really important you pay attention to Texas. And I'm not saying that because I'm from Texas. I'm saying that because this state is going to make a big difference. If you can turn it blue, the GOP is going to lose their shit. And I'm also saying this, okay? A reminder. And I'm not the only one saying this. Researchers, independent news outlets, there's a lot to this. Or there's a lot to substantiate this. They are not the GOP, Trump's regime. They are not going to merely step down. They are not going to let go of power easily in the second term. The first term, we had January 6th. We had him try. I really believe what we're going to see this as we're coming up towards November and into November when they're voting. As they lose power more and more, they're going to try to hold tight more and more. We're going to see higher instances of voter suppression. We're going to see higher instances of backlash and trying to censor independent journalists, try to censor people online. They're going to do everything they can. And they're going to... I truly don't believe that it's nothing that ICE is over here stockpiling weapons. They're gearing up. They're gearing up. And I honestly think best case scenario is he's so threatened that he pulls a Hitler and retreats into his bunker. Because that's probably going to be best case scenario for all of us. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get very ugly this year. Because we are in an authoritarian government. And authoritarian leaders do not give up their power without hurting as much as possible. Even if it's easy for you to look away, to ignore what's going on, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. That's why they say no matter how much you bury your head in the sand, or how much you, not even head in the sand, but how much you ignore what's happening to your neighbors, eventually it's going to come to your front door. Because it will. And my only hope is that we are ready for it and we are able to push back on it enough, because what it's going to look like if they are able to hold onto power after November is going to be something none of us recognize. Or maybe we recognize in seeing overseas, but not something we're going to recognize seeing at home. And getting out of that is going to be, I don't know. I don't even know what we'd be able to do then. If we're not moving now, I don't know what we'd be able to do then. But anyways, guys, again, stay safe and stay informed.